Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland, co-founder and CEO of Visionary Wealth Advisors and the host of this podcast. And today I've got Aaron Klein. Aaron, what's going on, man?
Oh man, so excited to be with you, Brett. Thanks for
You've
having
got
me.
you got a nice studio. I mean, you got a real studio. I'm just sitting here in my office with a couple TVs in the background and a microphone. You got the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, but you've got a 2-camera setup and the whole 9 yards.
Damn, we'll switch right
check
there.
that out. Check that out. Yes, but yes. Anyway, it is just so great to be with you, and
Awesome.
thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You are the co-founder and CEO of Riskalyze.
That's right.
So in our business, it's a big company, and you're helping clients understand their number, right? What's their risk number? How much risk should they take? And I don't want to steal your thunder, but just give everybody a little background of who you are and what you do, and kind of really what's made you the man you are today, if you don't mind sharing.
Absolutely, sure. Well, in terms of the company, yeah, Riskalyze started from the standpoint of trying to empower the world to invest fearlessly. And we really believe that the best way to do that is by helping financial advisors, get their clients to understand how to react to risk appropriately. Because what we figured out, I think a while ago, was that if you can help a financial advisor, kind of build a framework for their client to understand and react to risk appropriately, you can take a fearful investor who makes bad short-term decisions and turn them into a fearless investor who makes really great short-term decisions. And that, after all, is kind of the fuel, the input that great financial advisors need to create those amazing long-term financial outcomes, right? I played a little bit of a joke on an audience of financial advisors once. I said, all right, raise your hand if you help your clients make great long-term decisions. Bunch of hands in the room went up. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's a trick question. Like, your clients don't make long-term decisions. They make short-term decisions, and you turn short-term decisions into long-term financial outcomes. And so, we just feel so incredibly grateful for the opportunity to stand behind tens of thousands of financial advisors who successfully do that every year. Yeah. And it's because of those financial advisors that we get to achieve our mission.
That's awesome. I love the mission. And talk to us a little bit about that. Where were you at before? What did you see?
Sure.
I obviously saw an opening there, and you said, hey, man, there's a huge opportunity, because you don't just go out and co-found a company and take a massive risk and build something without you seeing a big need, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, you say, how did you become the man that you are? And I'd have to give a lot of credit to my wife. I married up in a big way, and my 3 kids, who have given me my first aspects of gray hair. It's coming in fast.
There's nothing wrong with that. I've got
no, but they're 17, 14, and 12. So it's coming in fast. It's coming in fast, man.
Yeah.
But I actually started, my story is kind of crazy. I started working at the age of 12 years old in the afternoons after school for my dad. He knew nothing about child labor laws or minimum wage laws. He knew nothing about either of those things.
Right.
I think my first week I probably worked, 12 or 13 hours, and I got a paycheck for like $5. So, like I said, nothing about minimum wage or child labor laws. But I loved it. And I learned a lot. A couple of years later, my voice had deepened out. He let me start answering the phone, working with customers. It was a brutal business, by the way. It was wholesale distribution of like automatic gate security equipment. So not the manufacturer who builds the differentiated product, and not the installer who owns the distribution with the customer, right? But the middleman who is just trying to like get the product from point A to point B. And so like 18% gross margins, like not the world's greatest business, but it was an industry my dad loved, and it was a labor of love for him. And he taught me so many things in that. One was that it takes immense grit to be an entrepreneur, and to kind of work your way through building a business. And the second was pretty simple, which was, hey, we've got the same products as everybody else. This is a relationship-driven business. If we take care of our clients, they will take care of us. Yeah. And it's not an exact corollary to financial advice, because financial advisors have a lot of differentiation in how they deliver and how they work with clients and things like that. But there are there's certainly some things I learned about that, which is that, relationships are number one. And we've always sought to put that at the heart of how we built Riskalyze. And so, from there, I did a couple of different things with the internet, kind of at the intersection of finance and tech. And then, I was recruited to run global product for a division of an options brokerage firm. And so I'm leading teams that are building technology products for options traders. Okay. And one day I said to a buddy of mine, Mike, who is a financial advisor, I'm like, it is crazy how the average individual thinks about the concept of risk. And he said, if you think that's crazy, you should see how many of us financial advisors think about it. Like, we just have not had the tools in this profession to really understand who clients are and then match that up with the risk in portfolios. And when we started to dig into it, it became really clear how true that was. We use these terms in this profession, like conservative and moderate and aggressive, right? And we have no idea if the three people at the table, the financial advisor, the client, and the asset manager, mean the same things by the words conservative, moderate, and aggressive. And, it's like when we built out our office, right? Like, the contractor and the architect did not communicate by saying, remember, he wants a moderately conservative hallway leading to his moderately aggressive studio. They put feet and inches. How it works. Right. Yeah. They put feet and inches onto those blueprints. And that's how, that building came together. And so, we looked at that and said, somebody needs to put the feet and inches into this for financial advisors. And that's really how the risk number was born. And so, here we are 10 years later, like I said, just so grateful to have the opportunity to stand behind tens of thousands of financial advisors who care so deeply about doing the right thing for their clients and helping their clients get to the other side. And they do such a noble thing in the world. And it's an incredible pleasure to get to stand behind them in that way.
Well, that's cool. And they all have high expectations, right? So for you as a leader of organization, right, dealing with a bunch of advisors is not an easy thing to do.
That's the thing is that no matter how well you meet those expectations, customers' expectations go up every year as well. They should, right? I think they deserve the right to make that happen.
That's right. But the three kids may give you more gray hair than the being a CEO and co-founder of a fintech firm.
That's probably true.
So where do you see our industry going, man? When you look at, it's June here, 2021. I mean, when you look out at 2025 or 2030, wherever your mind goes, I mean, what do you see for our industry?
I am wildly optimistic and wildly bullish on the future of financial advice. I say that because as great, I'm a technology guy. As great as technology is, I really do not believe that technology can replace the core value proposition that financial advisors actually deliver, which is empathy, which is, coaching and the ability to understand where somebody is and connect with them and understand their fears and their concerns and connect with them on a human level and say, we're going to get to the other side. We're going to make it through this stress that we're living right now. And the way we're wired as humans is to take action and do exactly the wrong thing when we're fearful. Right? Like that's the whole problem that exists in investing. And that's why we said that our mission as a company was empowering the world to invest fearlessly. And financial advisors are such a critical part of that puzzle. The most important part of that puzzle, frankly, because it takes a human connecting with a human to empathize and halt fear in its tracks and turn it around and make it turn into conviction and the right steps forward. You can't do that with a computer. Our technology is some of the best in the world at helping clients see and understand what their advisors have been telling them for years, but it takes the advisor delivering that message with empathy and connection for it to work, right? So I am just wildly optimistic about the future of financial advice in our profession. Now, does it look differently in the future than it does today? It probably does. Financial advisors who don't like to connect with people and deliver that kind of empathy and deliver that kind of guidance and coaching and help are probably not going to do too well in that future. If all you want to do is collect 100 basis points to sell a pie chart, I'll tell you what, BlackRock's doing that for free on their website. Right. So like, that's not a really great value proposition. But if you're in a position to say, I'm going to take something that is complicated and something that is important, right? And I'm going to solve the problem for you. And when the going gets tough, I'm going to be here to help you make sure that we're making the right decisions and navigating our way through the turbulence that we may experience. That is worth its weight in gold. And
Yep.
I think that advisors, frankly, undervalue their value to the client in a lot of cases. I mean, we're only 5 years removed from a time when every advisor was like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out how to compete with Wealthfront. How do I do my work for 25 basis points?
Right.
And, it turns out that Wealthfront was kind of like E-Trade with a new coat of paint over it. Right. And that's not who financial advisors were competing with. So I'm very bullish on the future of financial advice. It has a place in this world for a long, long time.
Yeah, and I am as well. I mean, obviously doing what we do for a living, but I think that no matter what, right, as things become more complicated in our world, people want somebody there to hold your hand, right? And I talk about the two emotions, fear and greed.
Yeah.
And those are things we deal with every single day working with clients. 100%. Is the fear, what if my money goes down? The greed, I want my money to go up, right? I want to hit the home run. And I think that, I couldn't agree more with what you said. That person there, I call it Pandora's box. Everybody's got one. It's our job as advisors to get the key, open that, find out what's truly important to them. And really, quite frankly, in all, kind of jokingly, but kind of serious, is be a psychologist, right? 100%. A psychologist for the clients. Would you agree
100%.
with that?
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny that you say that, because somewhere I still have the original pitch deck from 2011 when I was pitching early angel investors on investing in this company, that became Riskalyze. And one of the slides setting up the story basically said every single human decision is based on one of two emotions, fear or greed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I promise I didn't get that slide back to steal that.
Well, so, and it's true. It's like, it is the prime. And a lot of people go, kind of bristle at the word greed there. And I go, okay, you want to say opportunity, like whatever you want to do. Right. The point is it's either a negative motivation where we're going, I don't want this to happen to me, therefore I'm going to take this action, or it's a positive motivation. I want this to happen to me, therefore I'm going to take this action. So put whatever labels you want on it. But like, those are the two ways that we can be motivated to take action. And I think that the really interesting question is, that Riskalyze helps to answer is, how is this client primarily motivated, and how does that change up and down their personal financial spectrum? That's why, for example, the Riskalyze risk assessment is completely quantitative, and you can't print it out and put it in front of the client, because every answer that you give as you're moving up and down that client's personal financial spectrum is determining the next question in the underlying math, right? To go, where up and down their financial spectrum do they prefer risk, and where do they prefer certainty? I like to say Warren Buffett and I might have the same risk number. I don't know, but I can tell you this. If I put Warren Buffett's dollar amount into Riskalyze and went through the process, I have no idea how it'd turn out, because I can't relate to his money. So it's going to be a bogus answer, however it turns out, right? Yep. Because I don't actually know how to relate or how I would feel with fear or greed with his dollar amounts. I only know that from my dollar amounts, right?
I can imagine it'd be a little less worrisome, wouldn't it? With his
probably.
With that many B's.
But I will say this: I do know that Warren Buffett would be a risk 99 if he put in my money. And the reason I know that is it's a trivial amount of money. It's like risk, right?
Right.
So it's a fascinating thing that happens when we actually bring the client's dollar amounts into the picture, and then understand how it changes their motivation between fear and greed as we move up and down their financial spectrum. That's really the core of where Riskalyze started.
So question one is question one, but question two could be different based on if you and I are taking this exact same thing. We both, if we're sitting side by side, we could see two totally different questions on question number two.
Sure. Even if we put the same dollar amount in, if you chose risk on the first question and I chose certainty on the first question, we're going to see a very different question too, because now we're trying to test a different part of our financial spectrums, to understand, where our sensitivities are.
And then the output is great too, right? I mean, the output that you guys have is phenomenal to help that client and serve that client. So
that's really been a key part of, I think, our success and the success of the advisors we serve is that, the output that we created, which, it started with this risk number idea. And I can remember, feverish debates in 2011 and 2012. You can't take risk and boil it down to one number. And, I ultimately what won the day there was, hey, look, we get that there's a lot of complexity under the hood. We get that there's, a lot of methodology that is going to lead to that number. But at the end of the day, what we're going for here is helping these clients see and understand the things that their advisors have been telling them for years. And the speed limit sign metaphor just kind of stuck. And that has just been an incredible, I don't know, just a rocket ship on, I think the businesses of the advisors we serve, because their clients are looking at this and going, I get risk for the first time. For whatever reason, when I look at standard deviation metrics, I'm not understanding it, but I see the speed limit sign and it's like, I get it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That makes total sense. That makes total sense. So what do you see from, when I did my research, you talked about how do you turn clients into heroes?
Yeah.
And so when you say that, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So, a lot of that idea comes out of the storytelling framework, which one of the best books to read on that is Donald Miller's Story Brand book, right?
Book.
Phenomenal book. And there's a couple other good books on kind of the storytelling framework, but that one's definitely the best. But, the idea here is that I like to say it this way: financial advisors do heroic work. So it's really easy for them to slide into the role of being the hero of the story, right?
Yep.
But the problem is that if you allow yourself to become the hero of this story, your client is just a spectator. They're sitting on the couch with popcorn. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you think about that level of disengagement, like I'm sitting back on the couch and I'm just eating popcorn, okay, watching this movie, and you're the financial advisor, you're the hero, that becomes a very transactional relationship. Like, what have you done for me in the last 10 minutes of this movie? Okay. And the truth is that, like, can a financial advisor single-handedly save the day and get the client to the other side? No, they cannot. They need the client deeply engaged in making the right short-term decisions that financial advisor can then transform into those long-term outcomes, right?
Yep.
And so, the realization in that storytelling framework is that financial advisors have to, make their client the hero, and they have to assume that role of the guide, right? And for those who haven't read this book, like the storytelling framework, think about it like in the lens of Star Wars, right? Like, every great story has a hero who has a problem or a challenge they need to overcome. And then typically a guide appears on the scene, and the hero has to decide if they're going to follow the guide's advice. And, and ultimately we're going to find out if this story is a happy ending or a sad ending, but like, that's the story. Yeah. And, Star Wars, Luke Skywalker is the hero, but Obi-Wan Kenobi is the guide. And they've, that's the story. Well, you as the advisor have got to play the Obi-Wan Kenobi role. You can't do the hero role. You've got to put your client in the hero role and show them that they've got the tools to get the other side if they follow your advice as the guide.
Well, and then you also think, using your Star Wars analogy, whether it's, the stormtroopers and all the other guys right coming at you, that's inflation, that's taxes, that's high returns, low returns, right? And so when you see that, let's take the Star Wars and apply it to the client. Now, what do you see there?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the tractor beam is in this analogy. That might be, excessive internal expense ratios or something like that. But yeah, I mean that's true. Like those are the outside forces attacking our story. Those are the problems and the challenges that we have to overcome to get there. And I would also throw in like what about like unexpected life events that are hitting the client? Like, this is a lot of the stuff that you as their guide are helping get them through. I didn't expect that my father-in-law was going to unexpectedly die of cancer, and my mother-in-law was going to need to move in with us, and we need to add on to the house. And like, how is that going to impact my retirement? How am I going to make that work? Yep. I did not expect that my son or daughter was going to go through an unexpected health situation, and I don't know if insurance is going to cover it. And how am I going to make sure that they're okay and get the treatment that they need? These are the kinds of things that hit us in life. And, a financial advisor standing there as the guide, can play a huge role in helping get clients through. Now, let's flip it. If the financial advisor is the hero of the story, then when, inflation and taxes and, lower returns than we want hit, I'm like, this movie sucks. Right?
That's
Looks like I need to go buy a different ticket and go to a different movie,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And the reality is that, you as a financial advisor cannot control the markets. It's not within your power to make those returns be what you want them to be, or to make inflation be what you want it to be, or to make taxes be what you want it to be. But if you've got this set up where the client's in the right role and you're in the right role, man, it makes for a better advisor-client relationship, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Great wisdom there. So let's talk about another key point here is the keys to client confirmation bias.
Oh yeah. Confirmation bias is one of those fascinating topics in kind of behavioral economics and behavioral finance, because confirmation bias is, they call it the mother of all biases, right? It's the idea that I am very likely to believe that the decision that I've already made is correct. So everything I see kind of confirms that the decision I made is correct.
Yep.
And I tend to seek out opinions that will drive my confirmation bias and prove that I was correct. I tend to watch, TV channels that will, generally speaking, confirm that my opinions or that my decisions have been correct. And so confirmation bias is incredibly powerful. And I will tell you, confirmation bias is what drives most of the bad returns that investors see in the markets, right? Because they see something bad happen in the markets. They see a bunch of red on the screen. They see a bunch of people on CNBC saying, "Oh, this is horrible. Like this stock is plummeting. It's bad. This market is plummeting. It's bad. This is bad. And they're like, I'm a human. I have to take action. There's a rustle in the woods. I gotta jump into action, and I gotta do something, right? And so that ultimately, again, if we sell low, we will assuredly, when markets are down, and then we wait until the markets feel safe again, and then we buy in back at the high. If we rinse and repeat, we're going to be broke in 30 years. Like that's how that works. So all this to say, one of the things that we were talking about in the early days of founding Riskalyze in 2011 and 2012, I would tell you we were dead wrong about something. We said, we're going to start this company and we're going to figure out a way to defeat confirmation bias. And because that's kind of like, if you want to make people fearless investors, you've got to defeat confirmation bias. You've got to just kill it. And you've got to find a way to help people overcome confirmation bias. And I would tell you that, a year and a half or so into our journey, and, working with we were doing a lot of different things to validate the technology, we came to a really fascinating conclusion. It was absolutely impossible to defeat confirmation bias. It's the mother of all biases. Right. It cannot be defeated. Okay. And so then a really fascinating idea hit us. What if we flipped the coin there? What if we harnessed confirmation bias? Because if instead what we do is we help the client see and understand the decision that they're making. Hey, I'm a risk 52, and a risk 52 portfolio has a 95% historical range of, something like minus 8 to plus 12% over a 6-month period. Okay, that's normal historical behavior for a risk 52 portfolio. I'm just making these numbers up. Okay.
Sure.
If I make the decision that portfolio is right for me, okay, when I'm talking to my advisor, right? 6 months later, let's say some volatility is hitting in a bad way, right? It puts the financial advisor in a place. Now, let's say that portfolio is down 5 or 6%. It puts the financial advisor in a very strong position to say, now, I know it doesn't feel good to be down 5 or 6%, but let's remember the decision that we made 6 months ago. We said that we wanted to get the benefit of this much return, so we had to take this much risk to get it. And we were right. Like, this is the right decision for us because this is the portfolio that's going to get us to the long-term financial outcome we're trying to achieve, right? So even though we may have some short-term losses in the portfolio, you were right in the decision you made 6 months ago. And the right decision that makes logical sense is to stay the course, okay? Yep. So that's harnessing confirmation bias to get the person to go, yeah, the decision I made was right, and I'm going to stick with that decision. And ultimately, we found a way to make the mother of all biases work for the investor instead of against the investor.
Beautiful. And if it's your idea, it's the gospel, right? I mean, it's
that's how confirmation bias works, right? Like if it's my idea, it must be right.
It must be right.
Yeah.
When all social media is doing that, I mean, everything is driving us to have confirmation bias.
100%.
So
100%.
Trying to think, The Social Dilemma. Did you watch that on Netflix?
I haven't watched it yet. I heard the preview looked, scary to say the least.
Yeah, I had to watch. It took me a little bit to watch it. I was like, oh gosh, this is exactly what's happening in my life right now. So a little crazy.
My life gets better when I'll tell you, like last year, a small confession, like I went on to Facebook and I'm like, okay, this is a tough year. I'm talking about 2020, like in the middle of the pandemic, right? I'm like, this is an interesting year. I'm like, I really do not want to hear any of my friends who are arguing against masks or for masks. Yeah. Like I'm not interested in it. If that's what you've decided to make your Facebook page about, I don't want to unfriend you. I'm just going to mute you because, I got to tell you, it turned Facebook back into something that was cool. I'm like, I'm seeing people's pictures of their kids again. Right, this is amazing. So,
not their opinion on a mask.
Not their opinion on a mask.
Political
I'm
deal.
Like, I'm just not interested in arguing about that on social media. It's not fun.
It's not fun. It's not fun. So how do you, Aaron, right now, when you think about obviously being the co-founder, CEO of Riskalyze, let's talk about leadership for a little bit.
Okay, sure.
How do you define leadership?
Oh, that's a great question. I've had the good fortune of getting to lead this company now for 10 years and work with a team that just like the collective intellect and talent of the team that I've had the opportunity to work with is just incredible. And I feel grateful every day for what I get to do. I love my job. One of the things that, the role of leader has changed a lot over the course of time of those 10 years, right? Because day one of Riskalyze, there were 3 people in the company. And, 2 years later, after we'd almost like failed and almost, we almost ran out of cash and shut down, but we made it through to the other side. The product launched in March of 2013 for advisors. It started really, really taking off. Our investors stood behind us. And by the end of 2013, we were 10 people, and then we were 25, and then we were 50, and then we were, like 80. And I can't even remember the year by year, but today it's nearly 200. Wow. And so every stage of that growth has been different and has really challenged me to be a different kind of leader and a better kind of leader at every one of those stages. And the challenges have been different every time. But I will say that one of the things that I do think, I can tell you a bunch of things that I got wrong over that time. Right. Okay. One of the things that we got right is that we actually laid kind of the foundation of culture in the organization on day one. And where I'm coming from on that is that I was in an organization before that was like a blame-based culture, right? And a blame-based culture has 2 objectives. The second objective is to make sure that the company reaches its goals, right? Like that's the second objective. Yeah. The first objective is to make sure that when the company doesn't reach its goals, I or my team do not get blamed. That's a blame-based culture. And there were a bunch of things, that I just thought were dysfunctional that I didn't want to see happen in a company that I led. And so we started in 2011 with 3 of us saying, let's articulate some core values that we care about, that the 3 of us want to kind of aspire to in this brand new company that's now like a couple hours old. Okay. And so we talked about that. We kind of put that down on paper. Now, I'll be honest, we didn't use that a lot for the first 2 years. We were still 3 people.
Put your head down. You can't breathe. You're underwater.
Exactly. Yeah. But when we got out to the other side and we started growing as an organization, we quickly, realized, like, it was up on the wall, it was right there, but we quickly realized how critical it was going to be because, see, we wanted to be the same organization at 10 people that we were at 3. So we had to use those values that we decided we wanted to work around to be our filter to bring in those 7 people that were joining us, and we're tripling the size of our little organization back then in 2013, right? And then we did it again, and then we did it again, and then we did it again. And those same values, we've tweaked it. In 2014, I think we added 2. In 2020, we changed one of them, and we re-articulated all of them to go like a level deeper in how we talk about it. And you can read all this on riskalyze.com/values. We just put them out there on the web so people can check it out. But we, they have become our North Star. So because of that, there's a couple of things that have happened. Number one, we have brought the right people into this organization all the way up to nearly 200 employees because we use our values to hire. And there's actually I can't interview every single person who comes aboard now, but we instituted a 15-person 9 values team of people that are really advanced in our values to do that veto interview. And it's cross-functional, right? So they might be interviewing an engineer, and they have no idea if this engineer is competent at being a software engineer or not, right? Because they're a salesperson or they're an advisor success person, right? But they do know whether or not that person is a great fit for our values, and they'll veto somebody who is not. And as a result, we make sure that the people coming into our organization actually fit our values. There you go.
So there they are, right? If you're watching this now, it says we are customer obsessed, value creating, relentless engineers of delight, right? So that's your
delight is one of those 9 values. There you go. It's the first of the 9 values. If you scroll up just a little bit more, you can see all 9. Okay. And they're kind of there on the screen. So delight, and then focus, integrity, respect, communication, ownership, teamwork, freedom, and accountability.
So when you see those, you just read those off. Tell me, let's pick one. Let's pick one, and let's pick on it.
Here's the big one, because this will go to one of my failures as a leader. Okay. So
appreciate the transparency.
Absolutely. In 2017, we started hiring like crazy, and I couldn't do that 10-minute veto interview anymore. And so I was like, well, I got to let that go so we can scale. And frankly, in 2017 and 2018, we did some hiring that did not really fit our values too well. So if you go to the teamwork value, that's okay. We don't need it on the screen, but I can talk about it. On the teamwork value, we ended up re-articulating this in 2020 because we went through a painful process. I kind of realized at the end of 2018, I'm like, we had this all company retreat, brought everybody together, and there was just a small subset of our talent. I'm like, how did these people get into this organization? I don't get it. Okay. And so we had to go through this painful process of turning over parts of our organization in a big way. I had to make some changes on our leadership team. And, and it was, look, at the end of the day, if you go back and analyze it, it was probably, as much as 25 or 30% of our people that we ended up making some changes. And the teamwork value really exemplifies, it articulates what we are looking for. We talk about, some things that we don't want. And I actually used the word reject. Like, we reject people with a victim mentality. We reject, mercenaries who don't care about our mission, right? And there's a few other categories of kind of people that we reject, but the victim mentality, concept is a huge one for us, because our culture just doesn't work with people who sit around, they go, I don't know, things will never get better. It's like, no, we're builders. Like, we we go fix. We are customer obsessed, and we're trying to engineer moments of delight in the everyday work of our advisors. So we go fix and do. We don't sit back and go, yeah, it's never going to work. Okay.
And isn't that amazing too? Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, it's funny, because it's funny you're saying this. I was at a soccer tryout I have 4 boys, and so this is my 13-year-old. Awesome. And I'm sitting there, I'm watching, there's 100 kids, let's say. Yeah. And I hear this mom who I don't know, pick up the phone, and she's talking about, we'll call the kid little Billy, right? Little Billy over here, little Billy. It's just when there's something going to go wrong, he's going to be there. And she goes on this, I don't know who she was talking to, but this 5-minute rampage about how little Billy's always going to have this, or little Billy's going to have that. And I thought, you know what? I feel sorry for little Billy.
Yeah, little Billy probably is
life. Little Billy's screwed.
Yeah. Little Billy probably is going to always have those problems because he's being told and taught that he has no impact on his own situation.
Can't control my own choice.
That's right. That's right. And so we want to bring people into our organization that feel empowered to create change, not people who are just kind of victim mentality people and just go, yep, this is just the way the world is, mercenaries who just go, I'm just here to chill out and make some money. Like, I don't really care. Okay. Like, we're not interested in that kind of person in this organization. That's not what we're looking for. So when we clarified that, and when we instituted this 9 values team, it really changed everything, because now, so I still approve every single offer letter request. They want to hire, somebody wants to hire somebody, I'm going to get an email. Okay. Here's the person. Here's what we know about the person. Right. And here are the notes from the cross-functional person who did the 9 values interview. And, I've never had to say no, because that hiring manager is not going to send me somebody who the 9 values interview person vetoed and said, this is bad. Like, this person does not fit our culture. Right.
Yeah, that's on them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible. I love that. And so you have this interview. So talking to the business leader right now. So you have the interview and you go through each one of those 9 values. Is that what?
So typically what has happened is the hiring manager will have touched on the values in the first place. Right. And they have.
Are you back?
I'm back.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that.
Internet blips. It happens. It's all good.
It does. So what I was saying is the 9 interview thing.
Yeah. I heard your question. So what typically happens is the hiring manager, they care about the values too, the good ones. Right. Yep. And frankly, I think we've got all good hiring managers here. I don't know of any of our hiring managers that are not caring about that. So they're thinking about and talking about values in their core interview. But the thing that we're guarding against here is that hiring manager, let's use engineering as an example. They're an engineering leader. Okay. They can very easily be blinded by technical brilliance on the part of this candidate. Okay. And that's when you start making deals with yourself. You're like, I get that there's this yellow flag and this yellow flag and this yellow flag, but they're so good at X, Y, and Z. I'm going to watch this and make sure that they, and that's when you start making deals with yourself and you start compromising. Okay. Yeah. So what we've done is we've said, well, the last thing you've got to do is, as a hiring manager, is you open up this thing we call the 9 values assessment. And they go through and they rate the person and provide evidence on why they think they're a good fit across the 9 values. And then they send that assessment to this cross-functional person on the 9 values team, which is like, let's call it one of our customer care leaders. Okay. And the customer care leader is going to do a 30-minute interview. It's not that heavy. It's just a 30-minute interview. They're armed with, here's what the hiring manager thinks about their fit with our 9 values. Okay. And they're going to zero in on 1 or 2 where they think the rating is a little lower. Maybe we don't have good evidence or whatever, but they're going to talk with this person and get a feel for the person. And they're going to zero in where they think that person might be weak. And they're going to dig there. And at the end of the day, they're going to have a pretty good assessment of whether or not that person is a good fit for the values in just 30 minutes. But the cool thing is, I'll tell you what, no customer care leader gets blinded by the technical brilliance of an engineer. They don't even know it. They don't even know
how to speak that language.
Right. Yeah. Whereas, same thing, if the customer care leader is hiring a customer care rep, they might be, blown away by this person's ability to communicate over the phone or something like that. Right. But an engineer is going to go, but I don't see the level of integrity that I think we're looking for. I don't see the level of teamwork or accountability that I'm looking for. I'm worried that when they talked about this, and this with their last job, that doesn't fit how we think about customer delight. Right. So it's the cross-functional nature of the 9 values team that really makes it work.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great process to go through. I mean, you can never negotiate your values, right?
That's right.
You can't.
That's right.
And if you're negotiating your values, then you don't want to be around that person or that company anyway, because that's not good. So
100%.
You talked about your mission statement. Our mission statement is to help people achieve a future greater than their past. And so thank you. And so when we sit down with people, it doesn't mean your past is bad. Right. But it just means everybody, I think, the ones that we work with and people that work with us, you choose to want to be a little bit better, right? You hear people say, it'd be 1% better, 1% better. Yep. And that 1% over time, I think I saw, if you're going to New York City or something like that, on an airplane from LA, that 1% difference is like going to New York or going to like, Amsterdam or something. I mean, it's
right.
massive, right?
It's massive.
And so I think it's a big deal. And so I think that companies like yours are doing well because you're mission aligned, your vision aligned, and you're getting that done early in the process. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think that it would have been really hard for us to grow and scale as a business if we didn't have that values framework at our core. And one of the things that I've found too is when we roll out something new that we're going to do, like one of the things that we're just starting to do is we're shifting to written narratives to evaluate like product ideas and big strategic decisions instead of PowerPoint slides, right? So it's something Amazon's kind of known for. I was a little bit of a skeptic at first, like, are we just creating a bunch of work for the sake of work? But I think there's a way that we can kind of leverage that concept in the Riskalyze way. But one of the things I did when I was preparing, my remarks to kind of roll it out is we go back to our values to say why doing this makes sense in the context of our values, right? And if you're always able to come back and put in context why something that you're going to do in the business makes sense in the context of your values, I think that just makes you a lot stronger as an organization, and it stops you from going down bad cul-de-sacs.
Yep. I couldn't agree more, man. So, and I'm assuming that's how you said earlier. I saw in my research too. It said you put the cult in culture, right? Or put the cult in your culture. And I'm assuming that's part of it, isn't it?
Yes, for sure. Look, there's we work really hard to try to pay people well and fairly, right? Yep. We work really hard to create a great workplace that people love to work in. And I think that we're really competitive on all those traditional things that lure great talent into an organization. But that said, I would argue that the greatest form of compensation that we have is that you get to work in an organization that you love working in, that is handcrafted and designed to let you do great things and work with great people and not spend all of your days like navigating politics, the bad kind of politics, right? And red tape, and you can't get anything done. Like, this is an organization where you can make an impact, and that's meaningful to people. They love that. And frankly, it's a big thing that in good times and bad times has helped us retain talent.
Love it. So talk to us about what do you see the best advisors in the world doing? You're working with, tens of thousands of them. So what is that, maybe one or two or three things that you think makes an advisor tick or makes them unique for their client?
Well, two different sides of the coin. On the first, first thing that I'll bring up is something that's more focused on the profession of being an advisor, but advisors who view their role as, from a servant leadership mindset for their clients, like they are there for some of those purposes that we talked about before, to help their clients navigate tough situations and successfully get to that other side that allows them to do things like, retire with dignity and security, that allows them to send grandkids to college that might not ever have gone to college. It allows them to change the world through nonprofit giving that might not have happened otherwise, right? Like the advisors who are focused on service and not just focused on this is my job do remarkably better in this world, right? I just think that that's universally true, and I've seen that over and over again. The flip side is that, and I think you've probably seen and heard this from your chair a number of times, there's a lot of financial advisors who solely focus on the profession side of the coin, and they forget that they're business owners on the other side of the coin, right? And it's the advisors who are mindful of the fact that they're also business owners who are trying to build a business, that they need to think about their organization, whether it's, 2 people or whether it's 10 people or whatever size or scale they're building towards. Okay. Like, advisors who are thinking about their firm as a business ultimately end up, I think, serving their clients better and be more successful in the long run.
That's great advice. That's true too. We always talk about manage the P&L, manage your business. People are visionary. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And it's a cheesy saying, but it's true, right? It is true. Because but we also focus on, yes, we're an independent firm. We're an independent RIA, but we also need to be interdependent with our advisors.
Yes. Yeah.
That's critically important for us. And we've learned that over the years. Right? We've been around for 7+ years now. And you learn that early. You don't learn that early. You earn it as you go. So
that's
talk
true.
to us. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's true.
Yeah. So talk to us about this Hope Takes Root.
Sure.
It's a charity, man.
Thanks for
Hope Takes
asking.
Root.
Yeah. Well, so I can't tell that story without first mentioning the fact that we're a 3-time adoptive family. So my wife and I have adopted 3 times internationally. Our first son, Spencer, was born in South Korea. And he is our 14-year-old. And then our daughter, Emma, was born in Ethiopia. She's our 12-year-old. She thinks she's 19, but she's still only 12. And then our oldest, Teddy, joined us about 5 years ago, and he is 17. And so,
awesome.
So they're an incredible group of kids. We like to call ourselves your typical average Korean, Ethiopian American family, you know? And
right.
So
they're everywhere.
Yeah, you're totally. It's a large community. So you know, we when we adopted the first couple of times, you know, adoption in Korea is kind of driven for cultural reasons. Adoption in Ethiopia is more driven because of poverty, right?
Yeah.
And so visiting Ethiopia for the first time when we adopted Emma really changed us, and ended up like getting involved in some nonprofit work there. Started out working with an organization called Lifesong that has some incredible schools down in the southern part of the country, now impacting 1,300 kids who get 2 meals a day and a world-class education. And it's keeping them in the family unit that they're in and preventing them from becoming orphans.
Wow.
And so like really cool project. So we helped raise some money to expand that school and grow it from about 200 to about 1,300 today, and an incredible project. And
Amazing.
so along the journey there, like we took teams back to Ethiopia to kind of, you know, see the project. And on one of those trips, we actually met Teddy, who ended up becoming the oldest Klein kid. And we're now renaming them, by the way, Eeny, Meeny, and Miny, because there ain't going to be no Mo. But the, you know, we
trademarked that.
Yeah, I didn't come up with not original material, but there you go. But you know, met him on that trip. And one of the things that we met a bunch of other boys who were his friends in that orphanage that we met him in, you know, and you know, the solution to that problem is not just one continent adopting all of another continent's kids, right? Like adoption is a beautiful part of the solution, but it's not the silver bullet. And so we started thinking about like, what are the opportunities these kids after they get out of that school project, after they, you know, age out of the orphanage, like, how do you think about that? And in Ethiopia, it's largely trade school and you have to pay tuition. And that's just a no-go for a lot of Ethiopian kids. Like they don't have anything like the money that it's going to take to pay tuition for trade school. So the first thought was, well, why don't we start a vocational school that's tuition free? And you're like, okay, well, that's going to be a problem. Like we're going to be on a treadmill trying to raise money to keep the doors open and impact 10 kids, you know, or something like that. Right. So somewhere along the way, we came up with a different idea, which you know, we're in the early stages of, but it looks really exciting. We're like, you know what? We're going to start a for-profit business in Ethiopia, which is a vocational school hiding in plain sight, because we're going to spend 20% of the revenue hiring unskilled student workers who are these orphans and vulnerable kids. They have no real contributions to make to the business when they walk through the door. We've got 4 of them in the organization right now. So we're very, very early stages. But they're building an app for Ethiopian small businesses and shopkeepers to do marketing, like some of the marketing automation stuff that we take for granted here in the United States. They're building that in Ethiopia. And they've got some kids out of university who are full-blown software engineers, very skilled, that are helping to build the technology. But we've got 4 of these student workers who are learning sales, customer service, some of the technical chops, technical support, all those kinds of things. And so the vision is we're gonna expand that model and have a bunch of those student workers. And again, it's a vocational school hiding in plain sight. We're paying them instead of them paying tuition.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
that is absolutely amazing. And again, you talk about flipping the script. I think you said that earlier, but when you talk about flipping the script, right? You were all trying to raise money for different things and different thoughts and different people, but man, to then give them something to learn and grow and, you know, be at work on time and what a lunch hour is and rejection,
and to figure out a way to make that sustainable. Because what I love about this is that we're going to, you know, what we did is we actually raised the startup capital here in the US into a 501c3 as tax deductible donations. We then funded the creation of this for-profit company in Ethiopia with those donations. I and two other people are the shareholders of that for-profit organization in Ethiopia. We have all signed pledges that if we're ever forced to take a profit distribution, we'll just donate it right back into the same 501c3 fund, right? Which can then reinvest it back into replicating and growing the program.
Yeah.
So, capitalism is one of the greatest things on earth for killing poverty. And I think we're about to develop another proof point of that, which I think is super exciting.
Incredible. But it takes vision and it takes passion, man.
Well, thank you for that. But it took a lot of other people's vision as well to make it come to fruition. And the team on the ground there is super talented. So super excited to see how it goes. You can eeny, meeny, miny, no more. And it takes some dough, right, to do those things over there. So I'm going to get real cheesy, but it's true. It does take some dough to do those things. That's right. Congrats, man. Well, we could continue talking for hours, I'm sure. But where do people find more of Aaron Klein? I know you do obviously Riskalyze, co-founder, CEO of that, but you give speeches and different things around the country. So where can listeners find more of you? Sure. I have a website at aaronklein.com. I'm on social media and love chatting with, great folks, business leaders and advisors and everybody in between on Twitter is usually my, network du jour, but welcome, love connecting with great business leaders and financial advisors. Awesome. Well, we'll put it all in the show notes, man. Put your website, Riskalyze website, all your social media handles, and also your charity. You guys are doing great work at Hope Takes Root. I love the name. Yeah. And man, it's been awesome having you, Aaron. Appreciate your time and good luck on your journey. Thank you so much.